Hi, my name is Alexander Lynch, and the incredible story you're about to hear is 100% true. About 3.5 years ago, my father pointed a shotgun to my face and pulled the trigger. He didn't do it because he was a psycho or because there was some sort of a family feud. It happened because, when I unintentionally startled him, his early stage 2 Alzheimer's, which at that time hadn't been diagnosed, caused him to become panicked and confused. Running to the closet, he pulled out his 12-gauge and fired it right at my head. He simply believed he was protecting his home, and didn't realize that he almost murdered his only son. It was one of the most disturbing and horrifying experiences for both of us, something that still gives me nightmares to this day. And it's also what sent me on a completely unexpected 2-year-long journey through the dark underbelly of the multi-billion-dollar corporate medicine universe, a journey that opened my eyes to the sick, predatory, and ultimately deadly practices of the pharmaceutical conglomerates, and that would eventually lead to the discovery of a completely natural, 100% effective way that could reverse even the most severe cases of Alzheimer's, dementia, and many other memory-related conditions, no matter whether the one suffering was in the very late stages of such a disease, at initial onset, or simply at risk of age-related memory loss. It's a method that's based on breakthrough research conducted by a team of scientists at Yale University, and it's already been proven to be effective. And all it takes is the destruction of a simple evil agent in your brain, something that until recently was poorly understood by the scientific world, but that has now been pinpointed as the overwhelming cause of almost all memory-destroying diseases. Now, in the following 5 minutes, I'll tell you exactly what this memory-destroying neuroagent is. I'll give you all the research to support my claims, and I'll even show you the simple, inexpensive steps you can take right now to permanently stop it from ravaging your brain cells. But if you're ready to see just how simple it is for you, your parents, your grandparents, or any other loved one to conquer your Alzheimer's and other memory-related conditions, it's vital that you stick with me to the very end. Because even as you watch this, a sinister band of pharmaceutical megacorporations are joining their forces to take this presentation off the internet. And they're terrified of what will happen if you find out what I'm about to share with you inside this video. Of course, honestly, they do have a good reason to be scared. They'll lose billions of dollars if you and I can work together to spread this message to our friends and loved ones. In fact, they're already starting to see the losses come in, now that 43,289 Americans just like you have used this presentation to discover the truth about memory-related conditions, while gaining the explicit details for how they can completely reverse those effects in just a few short weeks. They don't want there to be more people out there like Jonathan B. of Memphis, Tennessee, who says, "When I first heard about your proposed cure for Alzheimer's, I was incredibly skeptical, because I thought that if something like this really existed, I would have heard about it before. After watching your presentation, though, and seeing all of the scientific backing for what you were talking about, I started to reconsider and decided to share the method you gave me with my grandmother, who's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's for several years now. Well, Alex, I simply can't believe the changes I've seen in her. She no longer repeats herself or tells the same stories again and again. She's also incredibly sharp and focused, and she can recall conversations we had days, weeks, and even months ago with crystal clear clarity. It's given my family our grandma back again, and I'll be forever thankful for it." And Darren R. of Providence, Rhode Island, who says, 3 months ago I was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and even though it hadn't affected my life too severely yet, I was still really scared by the prospect of me starting to lose my memory, of becoming more and more forgetful, and of, in general, losing my independence. A friend recommended your Alzheimer's program to me, and I figured I had nothing to lose by trying it. I'm so profoundly happy I did. My memory is crystal clear. I'm not showing any of the symptoms I once had, and the doctor's even gone so far as to reverse his diagnosis, saying I'm no longer even at risk of Alzheimer's. It's incredible, and I have you to thank. And Andrea G. of Scranton, Pennsylvania, who recently wrote to say, "One of the hardest things I've had to experience in life is seeing my husband suffer from dementia. It started out mildly, but over the years it got to the point where he couldn't even think independently. He started doing all kinds of strange things for no reason, and because we were afraid that he was putting his own life in danger, my family insisted we move him to assisted living. Within just 18 days of using your memory healing method, however, things have completely changed. It's like I have my husband back for the first time in 5 years. He recognizes me, his personality has returned, and we have long conversations about our favorite memories and events in our lives. And I try not to cry because I feel that we're so blessed, we're even in the process of moving him back out of assisted living." Those are just a few of the real-life stories from people just like you who have already used the memory repairing method I'm about to share with you. Now, I'll give you all of the details on how it works in just a second. But before I do, I know you're probably curious who I am and how I discovered a way that could permanently stop memory loss, even in the most severe of cases. As I just mentioned, my name is Alexander Lynch. I'm 48 years old and I live near Little Rock, Arkansas. Up until a few years ago, I'd never really given much thought to Alzheimer's or other memory-impairing conditions. I'd always thought that when people's memories started to go, it was just because they were getting old. And even though my 72-year-old father was starting to become increasingly forgetful, misplacing his car keys more and more often, forgetting exact dates, repeating his favorite stories with increasing frequency, I just chalked it up to Dad being not as young as he used to be. 2.5 years ago, however, all of that changed. That date was May 18th, 2012, and it was my parents' 47th anniversary. That afternoon, at just past 2:30 p.m., I drove over to their house to leave flowers and chocolates on the kitchen table for them. It was something I'd done every single year since I first moved out of the house, and I knew that even though it was a small gesture, the tradition meant a lot, both to my parents and to me. I didn't see either of their cars when I got there, so I walked right up to the front door and used the spare key to let myself in. As I entered the kitchen and set the flowers and chocolates down, however, I could hear the sound of the television in the other room. Maybe Dad had forgotten to turn the TV off before they left, I thought, and so I walked into the family room to hit the power. But what happened next was one of the most alarming and scary moments I've ever experienced, something that almost cost me my life. My dad was sitting in the recliner watching the news. The moment he saw me, he darted out of his chair with surprising speed for someone his age. I didn't know what was going on and was almost laughing at his weird response, until he came bursting back into the family room with a loaded 12-gauge shotgun pointed to my face. "Intruder!" he screamed, his voice crackling. "Get out now! You have 3 seconds before I shoot! Connie, call 911 now!" "Dad, it's me!" I shouted out to him in horror and confusion. "It's your son Alex! Dad, what are you doing?" Hearing my voice, my mom rushed into the room, crying hysterically and desperately trying to pry the gun from my father's determined grip. As he wrestled with her defiantly, his arms went up and he pulled the trigger, causing a deafening roar to echo through the house. The bullet came so close to my head that I actually felt a whoosh of air as it whizzed by, about 1 inch from tearing through the flesh of my cheek. It might sound funny for me to say this, but thank God for the loud blast of the gunshot, because it seemed to startle my father and snap him out of his confusion. In an instant, his entire facial expression changed, from fear to recognition, and he collapsed in a heap on the floor, sobbing. "Alex," he said, "Alex, what happened? It's you. What happened?" The police were at the house in less than 5 minutes, but all my father could do was repeat himself. "I didn't notice him. I didn't recognize him. I didn't know he was my son. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Well, the very next day, my mom and I drove Dad to the doctors, where they performed hours of cognitive testing. The results were hard to hear, but given what had happened, not entirely surprising. My dad had stage 2 Alzheimer's, and the doctor said there was no way to reverse this. He filled out several prescriptions for medications and said that even though Dad was still relatively young, it might be time to consider putting him in a home. I was traumatized. My dad had always been my hero, and now the doctor was saying that he would soon be gone, that all of his memories, his experiences, would fade from his mind. I thought about the case of Alzheimer's I'd seen in other elderly people I knew, how they would ask their children what their names were, how they'd repeat the same sentences again and again, almost as if the conversation was robotic, not coming from a thinking, feeling human being. I thought about my own children, how they were about to lose their grandpa, how we wouldn't be there as their lives progressed, how we'd never get to know my soon-to-be-born granddaughter, because he simply wouldn't remember her. I thought about how this would be me someday, too, how I'd experience the same thing, whether from Alzheimer's or dementia, and how my mom would probably experience the same thing, too, until I'd lost both of my parents, even while they were still alive. And I decided to do everything in my power to help my father fight off his condition. I didn't care if it was irreversible. I promised myself that I would find some way to at least help slow down his deteriorating brain, which is why that very same week I began spending every extra hour I could scouring through academic journals, medical publications, university library archives, and online health forums. I wanted to understand what Alzheimer's was and what caused it, and how scientists were trying to cure it. But what I quickly discovered was that there didn't seem to be any clear-cut answer. In fact, the more I uncovered, the more confused I felt. There were so many different theories and proposed solutions out there, but none of them offered a cure. Some people said to eat certain foods, take omega-3 oils, things like that. When I actually looked at the research, however, I was disheartened to see that while some foods had been linked to a short-term boost in memory, almost none of them were actually scientifically proven to reduce symptoms of Alzheimer's and other diseases. I also found a lot of research about the effects of different common medications, but the more I uncovered about these medications, the more disturbed I became. Pretty much all of the Alzheimer's drugs that were available were filled with chemicals that had been derived from petrol oils, chlorides, and flammable gas. Just take donepezil, which is the leading Alzheimer's drug on the market. Well, chemically, take a look at what this medication is made of. Plus or minus 2,3-dihydro-5-6-dimethoxy-2,1-phenyl-methyl-4-piperidinylmethyl-1-H-indene-1-on-hydrochloride. The fact that I'm not even going to try to pronounce any of these chemicals should tell you pretty much everything you need to know about the purity of the drug right in the title. Plus, even though these poisons were being marketed to unsuspecting Alzheimer's patients and their loved ones, none of them had been conclusively shown to improve memory. Instead, the drug manufacturers said they helped with behavioral symptoms, and the warning information for every single one of these drugs said that they would lose their effectiveness after repeated use. Honestly, the more I researched, the more I felt like giving up, of just resigning myself to the tragic reality that I was going to lose Dad for good. I thought about how the best thing would probably be to just start trying to spend as much time with him as possible while he was still present and alert. To even get a tape recorder and have him tell me stories about his youth and our family history, so I could share them with future generations. But that was such a sad, depressing thought. And so, despite my deep feelings of doubt, I channeled every ounce of resolve I had and kept pushing forward with my research. In some ways, I guess you could say that doing something here felt better than doing nothing. Well, thank God I did just that, because it wasn't 2 weeks later when I stumbled across the study that would change everything, that would end up giving my father and more than 43,000 other Americans just like him, mothers, fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers, best friends, their memories and their lives back. It was almost midnight on a warm August night, and I was sitting in front of my computer like usual at a paid medical database website I'd subscribed to. I'd already searched the site 100 times before, and more than anything, I just typed the web address out of habit. But this time, something was different. Right there on the homepage, I saw a new study that hadn't been there the day before. The title of the article was something to the effect of TC-2153 Successfully Cures Alzheimer's in Mice. And you better believe my heart was racing as I clicked on the link. The study, which had been conducted by a team of researchers at Yale School of Medicine, announced the discovery of a drug compound called TC-2153, which reverses the effects of Alzheimer's disease in mice. The way it worked was by preventing something called STEP, striatal-enriched tyrosine phosphatase, from destroying the brain's ability to both create new memories and remember past ones. Now, I'd come across STEP before. It's what's called an enzyme, and it was discovered by a Yale professor 25 years ago. Since then, dozens of studies had already shown that patients with Alzheimer's, dementia, and other memory disorders all had high levels of STEP, and in particular, that this evil enzyme maliciously eats away at the proteins, receptors, and kinases of your brain. In other words, it's a lot like a deadly assassin, and it literally infiltrates your brain and kills your memories. But until this study came out, no one had ever figured out what to actually do about this memory eraser, which is why, as I read about this experimental new compound, I became more and more determined to get my hands on it, so I could give it to my father. If it worked in mice, who actually have 99.99% of all the genes humans have, then it just might work for the man I loved and admired more than anyone else in the world, right? And so, I got on the phone and began calling every single potential expert I could find. Alzheimer's and aging experts, pharmacists, pharmaceutical researchers, chemists, you name it. And it felt like I was repeatedly slamming my head into a brick wall. 80% of the folks I called never answered or returned my messages. And the ones who did all told me the same thing. What you're asking to do is impossible, they said. The drug compound you're talking about is created through an extremely advanced chemical process, and you'd need a multi-million-dollar lab to produce it. Not only that, but you'd then be creating a drug that would need to be run through a decade of clinical trials, be subject to government regulation, and ultimately be approved by the pharmaceutical companies themselves. In maybe 10 years or so, a drug like this might reach the market, if it gets approved, and if the pharmaceutical companies decided that they even want to market it. We're sorry about your father, but there's really nothing we can do. And that's what they said, again and again. And each time, it was like receiving a slap in the face. It was honestly infuriating. If the scientific community and pharmaceutical conglomerates already knew about something that could possibly cure Alzheimer's, dementia, and memory loss, something that would give the ones we love their lives back, and that would stop their brain from going into permanent delete mode, while giving them the power to create new, joy-filled memories well into their 80s, 90s, even 100s, why were we not doing everything in our power to get this to the public as quickly as possible? It started to drive me absolutely crazy. I began losing sleep. My mind was so preoccupied that I could barely focus on anything else in my daily life. Which is why I decided to do something extremely crazy that nearly caused my wife to divorce me, but that ultimately restored 100% of my father's memory, making him sharper and more mentally focused than someone half his age. I took out a second mortgage on my home and then wrote an impassioned letter, which I posted to all of the top scientific community forums and websites on the internet. In it, I shared my father's story, how desperate my quest was, and most importantly, that if a fully qualified chemist could help me figure out a way to legally and safely recreate the TC-2153 compound, I would pay them $200,000 in cold hard cash for their time. Well, within 3 days, more than 220 people had emailed me. But as I sorted through message after message, it seemed that while a lot of the applicants did have the experience I was looking for, they simply didn't understand what I was trying to do. In fact, out of the more than 220 people, there was only one email that got me really, really excited. It was from a man named Dr. Ron Goldman. He had a PhD in chemistry, had worked as a drug researcher for 25 years, and had written extensively on aging and STEP. But it wasn't his qualifications that grabbed my attention, it was what he said in his message. Because it sounds like you've already done a great deal of research in this area, I'm guessing you realize that creating an actual drug would be almost impossible. The elements required to make this compound synthetically are extremely expensive and, moreover, come from dangerous chemicals like oil derivatives, gasoline derivatives, and other things you don't want in your body. But here's the good news. It's my firm belief that you don't need to manufacture a pill or synthetic chemicals to stop the devastating consequences of STEP. The same elements that are in TC-2153 can be found all over nature. In other words, my hypothesis is that a simple combination of fruits, vegetables, and other basic foods would create the same natural reaction in the brain as would this chemical drug. It would be completely safe, and it would destroy STEP while acting as a natural memory healer. Here's my contact information. Call me if you'd like to discuss this further. Well, you better believe that I was on the phone with Dr. Ron within seconds of reading his message. The very next day, I flew him out to see me, and later that week we rented out a small lab space at the community college near my home. And then, for 3 excruciating months, the two of us worked around the clock to see if Dr. Goldman's hypothesis was right. Our first breakthrough came when we realized that there were really only 3 parts to TC-2153 that would need to be combined to get the memory-saving results we were searching for. The first was trifluoromethyl, which sounds intimidating, but is actually contained in carboxylic acids, which are found in certain fruit juices and nectars. The second was benzyl alcohol, which could be found in fruits, teas, essential oils, and flowers. The third was amine hydrochloride, which again sounds like something crazy, but is actually found in certain types of salt. So that was huge, because we'd now isolated the different components we'd needed to fight STEP. But the next part was figuring out how to get them to naturally react together. Dr. Goldman had theories, but it still took more than a month and a half of testing, along with around 110 failures, until we finally discovered what appeared to be the answer we'd been looking for, which was that by adding in a simple nutrient found in a select group of fruits and vegetables, even certain types of beets and lettuces, we could trigger a catalyst, something that would, in theory, naturally, safely, and immediately create a mimic of TCP-2153 and go to war against STEP. But while this second breakthrough was exhilarating, we still weren't finished, because the third step was to package everything together in a simple and easy-to-follow guide, something that my father could follow on his own, even if his memory was fading, and he was having more and more trouble performing simple tasks, or that wasn't going to be expensive, or be filled with exotic ingredients that would send my mother or I on a wild goose chase to grocery store after grocery store, which is why we took another full 2 weeks to list out every single fruit, vegetable, oil, drink, and flower extract that made up the natural cure we were creating. And then we put them into 4 different groups. Group T for trifluoromethyl, Group B for benzyl alcohols, Group A for the amine chlorides, Group C for the catalyst we discovered. Under each group, we listed all of the natural food items that had this particular component. And then we went a step further and made the explicit instructions for the portion of each group to consume at the same time. If it sounds like this might be confusing, don't worry, it's actually quite simple. For example, here's what using the system for yourself might look like on any given day. 1. 2 ounces of any fruit or vegetable in Group T. 2. 4 ounces of any of the juices, teas, or oils in Group B. 3. 1 teaspoon of one of the salts from Group A. 4. 1 ounce of any fruit, vegetable, or extract from Group C. Eat or drink all 3 within a 15-minute time period at noon or early afternoon. And that's it. Of course, while this all seemed like it would work perfectly, we still had to actually test it out. And so I took the guide to my father, explained what it was, and then told him I wanted him to try it. Dad seemed sort of skeptical about the whole thing, to be honest. Even though he knew what I'd been working on, he more or less had already given up and accepted that his mind would soon be nothing but a hollow shell. But while Dad wasn't a believer, I had faith. And because I asked, begged, and pleaded, he agreed to follow the guide I gave him. Over the next few days, nothing seemed to change in Dad. I mean, at least it was hard to tell, because even though he had stage 2 Alzheimer's, it wasn't like he was completely gone yet. So, even though my mom reported that he hadn't been forgetting anything or seemed at all confused, we couldn't really know if it was a result of the natural prescription we'd given him. But as we passed day 10, we began seeing results that were more and more encouraging. Dad was saying he felt more like himself than he had in years. He actually called me on the phone to tell me about it. He said he was feeling really sharp and focused, and asked me to explain what exactly the science was behind the program we had him on, which of course I did. And by day 21, Dad really seemed to be firing on all cylinders. I mean, he was just so sharp. He was remembering conversations we'd had a few days ago, a few months ago, and even years ago. It was an amazing and noticeable change in his demeanor, but of course it still didn't really mean his Alzheimer's was gone, and we had to be sure. So both Dr. Goldman and I drove with my father back to the physician's office and waited for nearly 6 hours while he underwent all sorts of cognitive tests. And it was only then, as the physician read the results in disbelief, did we really, truly start to think that just maybe what we had created had worked. These results of these tests are absolutely astonishing, the doctor began. I've never seen anything like them. Not only does your father show 0 signs of Alzheimer's, even early onset, he actually demonstrates a higher ability for memory recall and cognitive functionality than 95% of all the patients I see, even completely healthy kids in their mid-20s. What have you guys been doing? How is this possible? Well, we explained what we'd done to the physician, and he was so impressed, he actually asked if we could give him a copy of the exact plan we'd made so he could share it with his family members and patients. Of course, we agreed, and over the next months that followed, not only did Dad maintain incredible levels of mental sharpness and memory retention, so did the dozens, then hundreds of other people who were given this program, until it reached a point where the phone calls and emails from complete strangers who'd been given our program by a friend or a doctor or someone they didn't even know became so overwhelming that Dr. Goldman and I realized that we had a moral duty to share this simple memory restoration method with as many people as we possibly could. At first, we contacted several pharmaceutical companies, and every single one of them told us that they'd buy the program from us, provided we agreed to one extremely important condition, which was that we didn't tell anybody else about what we discovered after they paid us. And when we asked them what they were going to do with the program once we did sell it to them, none of them would say. We couldn't get any guarantee they'd actually share our discovery with the public, and in fact, we thought it was much more likely they would just hide this information away from the world forever. I mean, why would they want to cure Alzheimer's, dementia, and pretty much every other memory disease in the world when they could just keep making billions per year treating it? So even though they were offering me enough money to pay off the second mortgage on my house and pay Dr. Golden the $200,000 I'd promised, I simply couldn't, in good conscience, let these drug cartels get their hands on this. Which is why I decided to take this memory-saving method direct to the public. I hired my nephew to help me make this website, create the presentation that you're watching right now, and package the entire program into something that can be accessed directly from your computer, your smartphone or tablet, or downloaded or printed out and given to a loved one. Dr. Goldman and I called it the Memory Healer Program, and inside you'll get the explicit, easy-to-follow instructions for how to rapidly and permanently cure Alzheimer's, dementia, and any other memory loss disease or condition. The reason the program works is that it mimics the different components of an experimental compound that has already been shown to reverse the effects of memory loss. The difference, however, is that you won't need any drugs or be putting any dangerous chemicals into your body. Instead, you're simply given 4 different lists of 100% natural foods, drinks, nutrients, oils, etc., and you're then shown how to combine all 4 of them once per day in order to attack the step in your brain, which is the enzyme that's responsible for destroying memories. Remember, like I said earlier, it's really actually quite simple. If you or a loved one can combine lettuce, tomatoes, cheese, and dressing in a bowl to make a salad, you can use the Memory Healer Program. Here's the example I used earlier, just to illustrate exactly how easy it is to follow this program. 1, 2 ounces of any fruit or vegetable in Group T. 2, 4 ounces of any of the juices, teas, or oils in Group B. 3, 1 teaspoon of any of the salts from Group A. And 4, 1 ounce of any fruit, vegetable, or extract from Group C. Eat or drink all 3 within a 15-minute time period at noon or in the early afternoon. Inside the guide, you're also shown the exact portions of each item you're consuming, and you're told when per day to consume them. The great thing is, because there are a lot of different options for each group, you'll never feel like you're eating the same thing over and over again. There are literally hundreds of combinations, and each one will still create the internal reaction that's needed to target STEP and block it from deleting human memories. Plus, all of these different options are things you can buy at any grocery store for a few dollars. In fact, total, you'll probably end up paying about $25 for all the items you need to permanently restore your memory. And because this program addresses memory deterioration at the root, it's perfect for everyone from severe Alzheimer's patients to those who just want to have a safeguard in place, something that ensures they never have to suffer from the devastating effects of dementia, Alzheimer's, or any other memory-killing disease or condition. To date, more than 43,000 Americans just like you have already used the Memory Healer Program personally or shared it with a loved one. And across the board, the results are incredible. Dan W. from Jackson Hole, Wyoming writes, "Thank you. You've given me back my father, and I really mean given back, because prior to discovering your method, his memory was almost completely gone. He barely even recognized me or my wife when we went to visit him, and had trouble even remembering what he'd had for breakfast that day. Now, he's sharper than I am. This program is a miracle." And Marty S. from Plano, Texas, who says, "Alex, the fact that I'm able to write this letter to you at all is remarkable. I hardly remember anything at all for the last 4 years of my life, during which time I'm told I suffer from severe dementia. It was like being in a haze or a fog. Apparently, my son put me on your program last month, and it's absolutely incredible. Suddenly, over the last few weeks, I've had my personality come back to me bit by bit. I now know where I am, who I am, and what I'm doing. I now remember all of the events in my life, besides some of my time with dementia, and I can even do the Sunday crossword puzzle in the Times. The only way I can describe it is like seeing the world in black and white and suddenly having all of the color restored to it. Thank you. I'll be ordering 4 more copies of this so I can share it with some of the other dementia patients I know." Now, given everything that's inside the Memory Healer Program, it should be pretty obvious that there's nothing else like this in existence. Inside it, you're shown a completely natural and 100% effective way for reversing the effects of Alzheimer's, dementia, and many other terrible memory-destroying conditions. It will bring your loved ones back to you, even if you thought that they were too far gone and you'd already accepted that you'd never have a truly meaningful conversation with them again. It will protect you, your parents, your grandparents, and all of the others in your life whom you hold dear from losing their memories, whether it's from aging or a condition or disease. Remember, scientists universally agree that STEP is the culprit in almost every single case of memory loss, and this program creates a natural reaction inside your body that will go to war against this STEP and stop it from eating away at your loved one's memories. No more painful conversations or worrying about whether someone you care deeply for can live on their own, or whether their minds are starting to go. No more pain at seeing those same people struggling, or to remember their own birthdays, or where they placed the keys. The Memory Healer program is the only thing of its kind in existence. Of course, there are medications out there. However, even the pharmaceutical companies admit that they don't actually help heal or restore memory. Instead, they're nothing but behavioral drugs that turn your loved ones into mindless robots. And even the short-term boost to behavior really is just that, short. Donepezil is openly acknowledged to not slow down the progression of Alzheimer's. Galantamine is not only unproven, but only thought to have the benefits for 36 months max. Not to mention that the ingredients in these drugs are crazy. They're made from oil derivatives, gasoline derivatives, and other toxins that poison the liver and shorten the life expectancy of the one taking them. Or that the average cost of these drugs is between $177 to $400 per month outside of what insurance pays. Another option might be to put your loved one in a nursing home. But not only is this a horrific decision, an acknowledgement that you're giving up on them, that you're accepting their life is pretty much over. The average cost for just a semi-private room in an assisted living facility is $78,110 per year, or about $239 per day. If you're lucky, about half of that might be covered by insurance. But you're still looking at either coming out of your own pocket for nearly $40,000 per year, which places an unimaginably large financial burden on your family, or burning through your loved one's lifelong savings, taking the money they've carefully built up over the course of a lifetime, and practically giving it away to glorified babysitters, even as they roam the halls or enter the common room like zombies, on all kinds of medications, unsure of where they are and struggling to recognize the face of you or your kids or grandkids or even their friends. One final option is that you or your loved one could start consuming memory-boosting foods like omega-3 fish oils. Sure, they may help with short-term memory when you're completely healthy, but ultimately, they'll do nothing to prevent the onset of dementia or Alzheimer's, or to combat these conditions and diseases once they've taken hold. So really, it should be clear that none of these are real options for either preventing or curing memory diseases, which is why initially, I was going to sell the Memory Healer program for $379. That's less than the cost of 2 days in assisted living and less than the cost of 2 months' worth of Alzheimer's medications. And it'll permanently give you or your loved ones your life back by banishing the enzyme that's almost exclusively responsible for memory loss. When you think about all of that, it should be pretty clear why both I and the more than 43,000 people who've already used this program personally think that $379 is a steal. But I'm not giving you this mind-saving method to get rich, and this isn't about money. I've seen firsthand how using the Memory Healer program gave me my father back, how I can now create new memories with him, how he's able to enjoy and retain all of the wonderful things in life, and how I don't have to lose sleep at night worrying about whether or not he'll get lost at the grocery store or suffer any other humiliating experience. Which is why I'm not going to ask you to invest anywhere near the $379 I was initially going to price this at, or even $289, or $189, or heck, even $79. Instead, and only while this website remains online, which may not be that long given the incredible threat it poses to big pharmaceutical companies, you'll be able to get the entire program, the food lists, the groupings, the daily portions, the instructions for combining each item, the eating schedules, everything, for the small and 100% risk-free investment of $39.95. To get started, simply click the Add to Order button you see right below this presentation, and you'll then be taken to the secure checkout page I've set up. Then, just enter your information, submit your order, and you'll immediately be given unrestricted access to the entire Memory Healer program through the special members-only website I've created. You can view the guides, the lists, the schedules, everything right on your computer, your smartphone, or your tablet. You can also download them or print out as many copies as you want. For the instructions for how to use the program are so incredibly clear, you or your loved one will have absolutely no issues following them. Like I said, if you can put 4 ingredients in a bowl to make a salad, you can do this. Plus, your small but life-changing investment today will also be covered by a full 60-day money-back guarantee. Here's how it works. You simply say maybe to the Memory Healer program today by clicking the Add to Order button below. Once you've done that, start reviewing all of the guides, the lists, the schedule, and the other items that are included. Use them for yourself and share them with your loved ones immediately. And if anyone who uses it doesn't start seeing incredible and dramatic improvements to their memories, or the symptoms of their Alzheimer's, dementia, or other memory loss causing conditions rapidly disappear within the first 21 days, you simply send me an email using the address I'll provide you in the members only section, and I'll immediately refund your entire investment within 24 hours with no questions asked. Plus, even though pretty much every single one of the 43,289 people who have already used this program has reported dramatic, life-changing results in 3 weeks or less, you'll still have a full 60 days to decide whether or not the Memory Healer program is for you or not. I'm taking all of the risk here, and it doesn't bother me one bit. Like I've already said, this is about giving your loved ones their memories back, while ensuring that you can create new memories with them for years to come. If I wanted to get rich, I could go sell this to Big Pharma and retire tomorrow, but I have zero interest in doing so. Instead, I want to help as many Americans as I can, which means making it as easy as possible for you to try this today. So go ahead and say maybe by clicking the Add to Order button below right now. The decision should be easy, but if you're ready to make it, you need to act quickly. The pharmaceutical drug manufacturers are furious that I've made this website, and the tone of our conversations is starting to shift significantly. They're no longer being nice when we talk. They're starting to tell me that if I don't take this website down or sell the program to them, they'll come after me with everything they've got. And as soon as they do that, whether it's through lawsuits or more violent means, I'll be forced to remove the Memory Healer program from the web. I don't want to have to do that, but they have billions of dollars and are virtually immune from the law, which means the moment they truly threaten me, I'll have to put my family's safety first by deleting this site. So I'm urging you, don't let Big Pharma win. Don't let them keep this from you. Don't let them keep you or your loved ones from getting their memories back. Don't let them keep your loved ones dependent upon their drugs, or on nursing homes, or on your constant and humiliating babysitting. This presentation is over, and the choice is yours. But I think it should be pretty clear what you need to do. This has been Alex. I hope you take action today and send me your success stories after you implement the program. Sincerely, Alexander Lynch. Hey, it's Alex again. Don't be startled. There's just one more thing I want to do for you since you're still on this page. You see, I get a lot of questions from people who watch this presentation for the first time. And I found that while they're pretty amazed by what they've just discovered, they still want a quick review of the presentation. So let me go ahead and answer some of the most common questions people ask me right here, so you know exactly what you're getting with the Memory Healer program today. 1. How and why does the Memory Healer program work? Well, the way the program works is pretty simple, actually. When you have Alzheimer's, dementia, or other memory conditions, an enzyme called STEP is actually destroying the neural pathways in your brain. You can think of STEP as a vacuum. It sucks away those memories at an increasingly rapid rate. Fortunately, scientists have now also discovered an experimental compound that can destroy STEP and stop it from killing your memories. The Memory Healer program gives you a list of foods, drinks, teas, oils, things like that, which when combined in the proper way, mimic this experimental compound. There are many advantages to doing it this way. First of all, it's completely natural and safe, whereas the experimental drug that scientists use is made from dangerous chemicals and may have major side effects. Second of all, it's really inexpensive. All you're doing is combining these different items in a specific way, which I show you how to do inside the program. 2. Who will the Memory Healer program work for? This program can work for anyone who has a memory condition or who is even at risk of a memory condition, because STEP is the overwhelming cause of all of the major memory diseases and conditions. By destroying this evil enzyme, you stop your memories from being deleted. So it doesn't matter whether the person using this program has early onset Alzheimer's or is in the later stages. It also doesn't matter if they have mild dementia or severe dementia. It always stops STEP. It's also great as a preventative measure. You or your loved one likely won't initially realize that STEP is starting to wreak havoc on your brain, and it can build up for years before it actually really begins to affect your life. But with the Memory Healer program, the step is deleted, which means you can sleep easy knowing you'll never be affected by a memory condition or disease as long as you live. 3. What exactly is included in the program? Once you've clicked the Add to Order button you see below the screen, you'll get instant access to the entire program. That includes a comprehensive list of all of the foods, drinks, oils, and other sources of the 4 components you need to imitate TC2153. All of these items are combined into 4 different components, and you'll also be shown exactly how to combine them to create the internal reaction needed to destroy STEP. You'll also be given the exact portions of each item to be combined with other items, and be told what time of day to use the method for best results. The best part is that because there are several items listed in each category, you have hundreds of combinations, which means that destroying STEP through this program never gets monotonous or repetitive. 4. What kind of results can I expect to see? More than 43,000 people have now used the Memory Healer program, and the results have been remarkable. Within 3 weeks, the person using this method should see a dramatic improvement in mental clarity and sharpness, along with significantly better mental recall. 5. How long will this program be available for? I can't give you an exact answer here. I want it to stay up forever. However, the pharmaceutical companies are becoming increasingly hostile towards me and starting to make threats. As soon as my family is at risk, I'll have to take the site down. That means you really should get this program right now, especially since there is zero risk to you, as I'll explain in a second. 6. What's with that guarantee again? So the reason there is no risk is that you have a full 60 days to try the Memory Healer program for yourself. Whether it's you personally or you're getting this for a loved one, it doesn't matter. Simply follow the guide, combine the items, use the instructions. If for any reason over the next 2 months you're not satisfied, you simply send me an email. I'll provide my address inside, and I'll immediately refund your entire investment with no questions asked. 7. How do I get started? To get started, just click the Add to Order button below. Do that now, and you or a loved one can start experiencing life-changing results in as little as 30 minutes from now.